Today, I will be talking about El Salvador and their sweatshops. Sweatshops have been a big issue for many years, especially in El Salvador. This reality that people in El Salvador live in continues because it is their culture. Since they have been doing sweatshops for many years, it has become a part of them, and it all started because of them being a third world country. Being in a third world country is very difficult because they have to settle for jobs. Making money is how people survive in these countries, and if they do not have a job, they will never survive. Which means people will do anything for money, even work in a sweatshop where there are health hazards, unsafe conditions, low pay, and no health insurance. There are two main sweatshops that continue in El Salvador, one being Nike and the other is cutting sugarcane. These two sweatshops continue today because it is a part of their culture. It is all they know. It is a system of knowledge, belief patterns, patterns of behavior, artifacts, and institutions that are created, learned, shared, and contested by a group of people. Globalization and culture are what creates these businesses, and they are the reason it continues in third world countries today. To begin, Julia Esmeralda Plights is someone who actually worked in El Salvador for a couple of months before she got fired. She talks about how in the factory they made Nike, Adidas, and USA soccer shirts. Her job was to sew both seams on 160 shirts every 2 hours. She states, "We entered the factory at 6:55 in the morning and we worked supposedly until 5 p.m., but almost every day we had to stay until 6:30 or 7 p.m. She even talked about how the work was so brutal and the owners would not let them leave until their production goal was met for that day. Julia also talks about how if they did stay after hours, they would not get paid extra and they would take your ID card so you couldn't punch out. If you left, you would lose the entire day's pay. Julia's article talks about how bad the sweatshop really was and how working there was not just the issue. It was the fact that if they went to the hospital or missed work, they would be suspended and would not get paid. Julia's article ends by her talking about her last few days there. She talks about her last few days there. Tuesday, I had no money for the bus to work. When I went to work the next day, they suspended me without pay and sent me home. On Thursday, they wouldn't let me work either. And then I was fired Friday. In the end, it was noted that Nike always talked about how well the workers are treated and that all their rights are respected, which is not the case. The next article that talks about sweatshops in El Salvador is the sugarcane business. The sugarcane business is different than the other business because they want children to work in this sugarcane company. Jesus Franco, aged 14, talks about his time working at the sugarcane sweatshop and how he has scars crisscrossing his legs from his ankles to his thighs and more on his small hands. For more than half his young life, he's spent long days cutting sugarcane. This article also tells about how children are paid only when they reach 10 years old. They are paid the equivalent of $4 for a 9-hour day. Younger children often split a single day wage. This is interesting because more than 17 million children between the ages of 5 and 14 are working in the region. Children labor is rampant when it comes to planting and harvesting, especially sugarcane, which is actually considered the most dangerous. About 5,000 children younger than 18 do hazardous and back-breaking work of planting or cutting sugarcane in El Salvador, many of them wielding foot-long machetes from the age of 5. These two articles really show what it is like to live in a third world country, especially what it is like to live in El Salvador. These two sweatshops really define culture and globalization because culture is learned and continues because people in El Salvador continue to recreate their daily social interactions. Globalization is the contemporary widening scale of cross-cultural interactions owing to the rapid movement of money, people, goods, images, and ideals within nations and cross-national boundaries. Globalization and culture is what created these sweatshops and why they continue today. Structural violence also plays a big role in these sweatshops because it is historically given and economically driven. Racism, sexism, political violence, and gritting poverty bring out hardship, disease, and death. Globalization does not only affect third world countries, it also affects people in the US because the weight of suffering is something that the US does not see every day and it is something we do not understand. Our knowledge of suffering is objectified. Sufferers lose their voice. We don't have access to their experiences. Pablo Richards states a wall between the rich and the poor is being built so the poverty does not annoy the powerful, and the poor are obligated to die in the silence of history. To conclude, globalization and culture are really important deciding factors when it comes to third world countries and even in the US. El Salvador is a country that has struggled for many years because of the culture that they have grown up with. Culture is learned from the continuous reality of social interactions, and that is why sweatshops are a continued job in El Salvador, because it is a continuous social interaction. The two articles, Nike Code of Conduct, Just Do It or You're Fired, and El Salvador, Scared by Child Labor, shows that sweatshops put their people in danger every day by having them work in horrid conditions and barely getting paid minimum wage. Globalization and culture has and will always play a huge role, and the places it truly affects is the most is third world countries.